All right, so are you ready to dive into a topic that's maybe a little bit more lighthearted than usual?
I think we could all use a little bit of levity, especially around this time of year.
Definitely right. Especially today. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
For something that seems so, I don't know, commercialized, I guess, like Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
there's actually a lot of history and mystery surrounding it.
A lot more than people realize, I'd say.
Yeah, so you've given us a stack of articles on Valentine's Day and its origins, its traditions, and well, we're gonna do what we do here at the Deep Dive, and that is
Yeah.
pick those apart and really see if there's anything interesting or juicy that
Exactly.
we can bring to light for our listeners. So
Please.
yeah, so the first article here, this is from CBS News. It's
Yeah.
titled, "Why Do We Celebrate Valentine's Day and Who Was Saint Valentine?" Pretty straightforward, but
To the point.
yeah, to the point. Let's jump right in. So this takes us all the way back to ancient Rome.
Right back to the beginning.
Even before, those heart-shaped boxes of chocolate were a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it talks about this festival called Lupercalia. Have you heard of this?
I have, yes. It's a fascinating piece of history.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, Lupercalia was a festival that the Romans celebrated in mid-February. And it was meant to honor Lupercus,
Okay.
who was the Roman god of fertility.
A fertility god, interesting. Okay, so do we think that Valentine's Day is secretly about something
Yeah.
other than love?
Well, not exactly. But the rituals involved in Lupercalia were, shall we say, a little less than subtle.
Okay, paint me a picture. What did they actually do?
All right, picture this. They would start by sacrificing a dog.
Whoa, okay, hold on. Sacrificing a dog.
You heard that right. And then they would use the hides of those dogs
Yeah.
to whip young women, gently, of course, believing it would increase their fertility.
Okay, that's,
A bit extreme by today's standards.
yeah, a little bit, I don't know, different
A bit,
than how we celebrate now.
for sure.
But, hey, different times.
Different times indeed.
Different times. Now, the article also mentions that the most, I guess, well-documented Lupercalia
Yeah.
took place just a month before Julius Caesar was assassinated. Do we think there's any connection there?
It's probably just a coincidence, but it definitely adds another layer of intrigue to the whole story, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you think.
Yeah.
So eventually this whole celebration came to an end.
It did. In the 5th century, Pope Gelasius I officially put a stop to the festivities.
Ah, interesting.
And around the same time, the feast day of Saint Valentine appeared on February 14th, and it was associated with the sanctity of marriage.
Okay.
So a lot of people believe that it was meant as a direct replacement for Lupercalia.
So maybe not about fertility in the same way, but so is there like a debate around that? Like, is there concrete evidence or is it just kind of speculation?
Well, there's no hard proof to definitively say it was a direct replacement. The timing is certainly interesting. But, it is possible that early Christians chose that specific date to introduce their own tradition, separate from the, shall we say, more pagan rituals.
Yeah, I see. So it's kind of like a way of blending what was already there with
Yeah,
something.
a bit of a rebranding.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of Saint Valentine, right? The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
There seems to be, from this article and some of these other ones, a lot of mystery surrounding him.
A lot of mystery. In fact, there are different theories about who he actually was.
Okay.
Some believe that there were actually 2 different St. Valentines.
Ooh.
2. Both bishops who were executed by the Romans.
That's, yeah.
Complicates things a bit.
It definitely complicates things, right?
Yeah,
Like, how do we even begin to pick that apart?
Yeah.
And then there's also this story about
Right.
a bishop who defied an emperor's orders and secretly performed marriages for soldiers.
Yeah, leading to his execution, of course.
And then there's this priest, Father Michael Clark, who claims to have seen Saint Valentine's skull.
Right.
So is it a case of mistaken identity, or were there actually 2 Valentines? And what's with the skull?
It's a real head-scratcher. Father Clark believes that the existence of the skull points to a single Saint Valentine,
Okay.
and he emphasizes the power of his martyrdom, connecting it to this idea of uncompromising love. Much like that quote from the Song of Solomon, love is stronger than death.
Right. So regardless of which story you believe, I mean, Saint Valentine becomes
Yeah.
a symbol of love that endures, even in the face of death.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, really powerful stuff. So we go from this, very raucous pagan celebration with, animal sacrifice and
Slick
whipping,
contrast.
yeah, to a saint sacrifice for
Yeah.
love. Quite a journey so far
Quite a journey.
in this story. But it doesn't stop there.
It doesn't. By the 14th century, we start to see a shift. Gift giving becomes associated with Valentine's Day. It takes on a more secular feel, with themes of love, poetry, and tokens of affection taking center stage.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting.
It does.
Right, because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
so we've got this kind of like evolution happening, right?
For sure, Valentine's Day isn't static. It reflects the culture and values of the time period in which it's celebrated.
So like, take the Victorian era, for example. We know they were all about romanticism, right?
Absolutely. Valentine's Day became incredibly sentimental during that time. Beautiful love letters, flowery poetry, a far cry from the drunken revelry of Lupercalia, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's amazing to see how those societal shifts impact traditions.
It's like going from whipping each other with dog hides to like writing sonnets.
Quite the glow up.
Yeah, Valentine's Day glow up. I like it.
Exactly.
But we can't talk about Valentine's Day without talking about
Of course not.
Cupid, right?
We can't forget Cupid.
The little chubby baby with wings, right?
He's become quite the icon.
Shooting arrows of love.
Yeah. Although there's a lot more to him than that.
Okay, tell me more. Like, where does Cupid even come from?
Well, Cupid, as we know him, originates from Roman mythology. He's the son of Venus, the goddess of love. He embodies desire and plays a significant role in literature and mythology.
Ah, so he's got, like, a deeper meaning.
Much deeper.
Than just, the commercialized version we see today.
Right. Think about his role in classical literature, Ovid's Metamorphoses, for instance. Cupid's presence reminds us that erotic love, that raw, primal urge, has always been a part of the human experience.
Right.
It's woven into our stories and myths.
It's interesting how these threads of love and desire
Yeah,
really kind of weave their way through history,
they do.
from Roman mythology to the Valentine's Day traditions that we know today.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the modern day, where Valentine's Day has become, well, a pretty big commercial event.
Oh, yeah. It's huge, right? Billions of dollars.
Billions spent every year.
On candy, flowers, greeting cards, dinners, jewelry, you name it.
It's a lot.
It is. But, amidst all that commercialism, there's this interesting trend emerging, wouldn't you say?
There is.
Challenging the traditional notion of Valentine's Day as just a romantic holiday. We're talking about Valentine's Day and Galentine's Day.
Right. These are really interesting developments.
Yeah.
They really show how societal norms are reshaping traditions.
Yeah, explain that a little bit more.
Well, Valentine's Day focuses on families celebrating together. So it's a more inclusive approach, expanding beyond just couples.
Right.
And then Galentine's Day, celebrating female friendships.
I love that one.
It's become incredibly popular.
So it's not just about romance anymore.
It's not.
It's about all kinds of
Exactly. Love and connection.
It really is a testament to the power of those female friendships.
Yeah.
Recognizing the importance of platonic love.
Yeah. And you know what I think is interesting?
What's that?
Is that there's also this focus on self-love.
Absolutely. And that's crucial. Yeah, and both the priest we talked about, Father Michael, and then there's this lifestyle expert, Kathy Kopcut, who's featured in this article.
Right.
They both talk about how important it is to love yourself.
It's a fundamental idea. You can't truly love others without first loving yourself.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
It is. And maybe, just maybe, the way Valentine's Day is changing is bringing us back to that focus on the individual, on self-love, and how that love can then radiate outward to others.
I like that, kind of like a full circle moment.
It is. From wild Roman rituals to martyred saints to a celebration of self-love. What a journey Valentine's Day has been.
It really makes you think about what this day is really all about, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Mm-hmm.
It does indeed. It really does make you think. And, as we delve deeper into these different aspects of Valentine's Day, it's clear that its evolution is far from over.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of evolution, this article you gave us, it actually touches on how people are celebrating in 2025.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
And, it's not all about the lavish dinners and the diamond jewelry and things like that.
Not at all.
I remember, my first Valentine's Day with my partner, we were both broke college students, and we, made each other gifts, And looking back, those were, some of the most meaningful Valentine's Day gifts I'd ever received,
Well, it's the thought that counts.
Because it was about the thought. It wasn't about, how much money you spent.
Exactly. And the article actually highlights a lifestyle expert, Kathy Kopcut.
Okay.
And she talks about how recent events, specifically the wildfires in LA County,
Right.
have really like shifted how her community is celebrating Valentine's Day this year.
So it's less about the big gestures
Yeah.
and more about appreciating what you have.
Exactly. Instead of focusing on like lavish gifts and things, they're really prioritizing celebrating life
Right.
and cherishing the loved ones who are, safe and sound.
I mean, that's really beautiful, actually.
It is.
Yeah, it puts things into perspective.
For sure.
It's like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
Valentine's Day is about those connections.
It is about appreciating those connections.
Those people
who matter most.
And that shift is also reflected in the growing popularity of Valentine's Day celebrations.
Yeah.
Families coming together to celebrate the love they share, which is really heartwarming.
Like a Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
For the whole family.
Exactly.
I love that. And then there's Galentine's Day.
Oh, can't forget about Galentine's Day.
Which is, celebrating with your best friends is one of the best ways to spend Valentine's Day.
It really is. It's gained so much momentum in recent years.
Yeah, and it's not just about like, oh, let's go out and have drinks. It's like acknowledging
It's about acknowledging those really important bonds.
Yeah, and how they enrich our lives.
For sure. It's so interesting how Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
which, historically was so focused on romantic love,
Very much so.
is now embracing these broader definitions
That's the fast
on love and connection.
Yeah. It really speaks to the changing societal norms and a growing awareness of the many ways love can manifest itself.
So we've gone from, pagan fertility festival to this celebration of love in all its forms.
It's been quite the journey.
It really has. But before we wrap up this deep dive into Valentine's Day, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on its future.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like, where do you think this holiday is headed?
Well, I think given all the trends that we've discussed, the shift away from pure commercialism,
Right.
the rise of Valentines and Galentines, this renewed emphasis on genuine connection, especially in the wake of, some of these events that we've seen.
Yeah.
I believe Valentine's Day is going to continue to evolve to reflect those values.
So you think it's going to be less about, the big gestures
I think so.
and more about, those genuine, authentic...
I do. I think we'll see a move away from just the purely commercial aspects.
Right.
And a greater emphasis on celebrating love in its most genuine, authentic forms.
I mean, that's kind of a beautiful thought, isn't it?
It is. It's those everyday acts of love.
Yeah.
Those small gestures that really make a difference.
And it doesn't have to be about, breaking the bank.
It doesn't have to be.
Or anything like that.
No. It's about recognizing and appreciating the love that already exists.
Yeah.
Whether it's romantic, platonic, familial, the love we have for ourselves.
Right.
Valentine's Day is a chance to pause.
Yeah.
And acknowledge those connections.
So from ancient Roman rituals to modern day expressions of love.
Yeah.
And maybe even, expressions of love in the future.
Who knows?
Valentine's Day has really taken us on quite a journey.
It has. And like any good journey,
Yeah.
it leaves us with more questions than answers.
Oh.
Which is exciting, I think,
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we sign off,
Yeah.
I want to pose one final question to you
Oh.
and to all of our listeners out there.
Okay.
We've explored the past, the present,
Yeah.
even touched on this evolving future of
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
We have.
But what do you think Valentine's Day will look like 50 years from now?
50 years from now.
In the year 2075.
That's a long way out. Whoa, 2075? That is a fascinating question.
Yeah.
It's like peering into a crystal ball, trying to predict the future of love
Yeah.
and how we celebrate it. But, I mean, given all the trends we're seeing today, right? This shift towards inclusivity and genuine connection and self-love, I think Valentine's Day in 2075 could look very different from what we know today.
So less about those traditional romantic tropes and more about something bigger.
Exactly. Maybe by then it will have like completely transcended romantic love and become this global celebration of all forms of connection.
Okay.
Imagine like communities coming together, not just to celebrate love for their partners or their friends
Right.
or their families, but like to express love for humanity as a whole.
Very love thy neighbor. Yeah.
Exactly. A day dedicated to acts of service, kindness, compassion, spreading love and positivity throughout their communities and the world.
So instead of exchanging chocolates and roses, we're exchanging like acts of kindness.
Maybe, yeah.
Volunteering our time.
I mean, it's a possibility. Or, maybe it shifts inward. Valentine's Day in 2075 becomes a day dedicated to, like, self-reflection, appreciation for our own journeys.
I like that.
Celebrating our individuality, embracing our strengths, acknowledging our growth, fostering self-love and acceptance.
Yeah.
Like a Valentine's Day dedicated to mindfulness.
Yeah, like almost like a self-care Valentine's Day, right?
Exactly.
Where you just check in with yourself and appreciate how far you've come.
Yeah, a day for introspection.
Yeah.
Taking the time to acknowledge our own worth and celebrate the love that we have for ourselves.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, from those ancient Roman rituals to futuristic visions of love and connection,
we've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Valentine's Day.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And, it's fascinating to think about how this one day really encapsulates this idea of love and how it's evolved over time.
And like any good journey.
Yeah.
It leaves us with more questions than answers.
Always.
But I think that's part of the fun, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've unearthed these really, really interesting insights, but ultimately the future of Valentine's Day, it's still a mystery, right?
It is. It's out there waiting to be written.
Yeah, by each new generation. But, before we sign off today, we want to hear from you, our listeners.
Yes.
How do you think Valentine's Day is going to evolve over the next 50 years?
Yeah, head over to our social media channels and let us know.
Share your predictions, your hopes, your visions for the future of this holiday.
We're so curious to hear what you come up with.
Yeah, and in the meantime, no matter how you're celebrating today,
right?
Whether it's with a romantic partner, with your family, your friends,
or just yourself.
That's
important too.
We hope you have a day filled with love and laughter and meaningful connection.
And from all of us here at The Deep Dive, we wish you a very happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody!